Cause trouble.
Well, I've been known for that.
No, not you.
Yeah.
Maybe your brother.
Well, only when I have to be.
You guys separated? How are you?
Test audio, test, test. Test, test. Okay, commissioners, we are live on YouTube, ready to go.
All right. Welcome. Welcome to the North Logan Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, August 6th. We appreciate your attendance here. We will begin with our opening ceremony with the Pledge of Allegiance by Teresa and a prayer by me. Shall please stand? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our Heavenly Father, we are thankful for this beautiful evening, thankful that we are able to meet here in this public meeting, grateful to live in this good community. We're thankful for the many blessings that we have. We're grateful for the opportunity to meet together and discuss ideas and pray tonight that Thy Spirit will be with us, that we might be civil, that we might be able to be understanding and work through issues that are important to our community. We are grateful for the good people that live here and grateful for the safety and the security and the peace that we have here. We pray now for guidance and direction and for Thy Spirit to be with us, and say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay, thank you, Teresa. Thank you, me. We'll go ahead. We need a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Teresa moved, Porter second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That was a Blake second for the record.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear. I turned down. It's hard for me to see who's talking down there. So, okay. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Hopefully, all of you had a chance to read the minutes of July 16th. We're ready to approve them. We need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Who said that?
Blake.
Blake said.
Porter seconds.
Okay, Blake moves. Porter seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. We'll move on. Scott, follow up on issues from previous meetings.
I don't have any follow-up items. All of the items that we discussed at the last meeting will be discussed in more detail on tonight's agenda. So we'll get to those when we get there.
All right. Okay, let's move on to item number 1, public hearing. North Logan Townhomes Mixed-Use City Center, rezone and master development plan. Scott, do you want to introduce us to that?
Yeah, I'll give a quick introduction. We do have our applicant here, Brad Brown. He has a presentation that he would like to also run through with the Planning Commission, but I'll give just a quick overview of the staff report beforehand. This particular piece of property that is proposed for a rezone is located just behind the Four Seasons Apartments and Main Street that's currently zoned commercial general. It's part of our west side transition district in the city center master planned area. And so that is the requested rezone, is for mixed use city center, converting this commercial general to mixed use city center. As we've discussed in past meetings, but also for those here tonight to understand, the city center is a specific future land use area for the city, was planned as a small area plan that is more specifically geared towards a city center. Mixed-use development, commercial, higher density residential is anticipated in this area of town. And you'll see on the left there, this is an image from the city center master plan, anticipated that there would be some attached housing in this area. And then on the right-hand side here, the west side transition is showing where this property is located in that district. Real quick, the proposal, as we've mentioned, is for what we call row homes, townhomes in the city center. The site plan that you see on the screen here is what had been submitted as part of the staff initial review. The applicant would like to discuss this configuration, but also another configuration that they would like to present. So we won't get too far into the overall layout, as that is flexible and malleable at this point. But the idea being that access would be taken from both Main Street and then further down on 2000 North as well. As we've talked in past meetings, and also we'll talk in more detail today, the City Center has a very specific architectural requirement as part of the form-based code. It anticipates that all row buildings are a 3-story minimum with a New England style architecture. And there's some example renderings of what is anticipated with the proposal. I want to scroll down and just talk real quick about the City Center briefly before we hand it over to the applicant to present what they'd like to present. But this is what we call the future land use map. This is an exhibit from the general plan. And the general plan is a high-level guiding document for the city. It's a plan of the entire community, and it essentially looks at different areas of town and how those areas of town should grow over time. And you'll see that there's residential districts, further to the east, the USU Innovation Campus to the south, Highway 91 commercial to the west, and manufacturing commercial further to the west there. But as you'll see, the city center is kind of in the heart of the city there. And this particular property is on the west side transition of the city center. So just so everybody understands the context, the future land use map that we see here is not zoning. It is an anticipated outcome of future development over the next 10 to 20 years. But these individual rezones that are requested are always reviewed based on what the general plan and the city center master plan envisions for those areas of town. So with that in mind, I think it'd be beneficial to have the applicant present what they'd like to present, just to give the Planning Commission the most up-to-date proposal that they have in mind, and then go from there.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. Brad Brown with Stewart Land Company. Thank you for your time. We're excited. This is we're excited to be in the city, and I think this is a great spot. When I first talked to Scott, he said, we've got this new form-based code. You really got to try and understand it, wrap your head around it. So he sent me home with homework to try and understand it, and it has a lot of great stuff in it. But we're trying to follow that the best we can. There are some constraints that with the owner occupied and the 3-story that make it a little unique. But we feel like we're coming to a place where we can make this happen. We have kind of had an evolution of design. We went through several designs, and then if you go to the next one, this is the first one we went over with Scott that kind of has a ring road and then a center courtyard area. And then as we got talking with Scott, he thought that these were rear loaded units, and they would have their front doors a little too close to the fence. Didn't feel right to both of us, and so we went back to the drawing board, and this is the one that's in your packet. That is the next one. We went with kind of a spine road with some alleyways going off of that. But as we looked at it, we didn't love that either. As the green space wasn't as usable, and So we did revise it one more time. This shows that same previous area. We really liked that usable inner courtyard area, but we lost a bunch of units and added a buffer around the edge, so you could have kind of a walkway, pathway around, or just a buffer. Um, so, and like Scott mentioned, these are these will be a variety of we'll have two different building types, essentially a row building and a general building, as shown here. But we are, you know, endeavoring to wrap our head around what that architectural intention is, and so we've provided some those elevations. But as we've talked with Scott, you know, we want to get to a point where we've got more variety. So buildings are different, and so we've got a lot of ideas and a lot of, you know, we want to work with the city, with the builders, and, you know, come up with what that looks like to meet this. So there, what we're requesting is essentially, you know, we've been working on this since December, January, and going back and forth with Scott, and he's been great to give us good input, and we feel like, you know, we're well on our way on this form-based code and what the intent is. Scott did mention some, I guess some conditions, yeah, and that's what we're hoping for is a positive recommendation with conditions as you feel fit. But do you want to go to the last slide on that, Scott? So he recommended exploring a reconfiguration, and we just made a slight alteration there, not necessarily reducing density, but trying to accomplish the intent of the feel of what we're looking for. There's a few things on there, like clearly communicating where the general buildings and the row buildings. If you go to, or that last slide that we were looking at, we had delineated where those go. So there's a few of these. He also asked for elevations and the front, back, and side that were not, you know, in the initial packet. Then, you know, a traffic study will be done as appropriate. And then obviously the owner-occupied condition will be put into the development agreement. So all those are expectations, and as well as, and I think this is where we want the most collaboration, is the look. You know, having the architectural design elements that will satisfy what that intent of the code is. So overall, we're very excited. I think this is going to be a great project. It's you know, I think it will kind of set the tone with those, you know, the 3-story minimum right there for that city center area. But so, any questions for me?
I have a question. So your change by having the front doors to the fence was just to put in that walking path? Is that correct, what you said?
Yeah,
The green
that
walking path?
buffer, so that area.
Because I mean, I think if you look at the red, I'm on a different one than you, but I mean, those front doors probably all face the green area, which seems like a nice thing to me.
Mhm.
But then every other one is a garage, right? If you drive in the subdivision, the whole road you see is garages and driveways, right?
Mhm. And part of that is due to some of the design constraints in the form-based code, with a 2-car garage and a front-loaded version, and a 3-story. You can't fit within the constraints. There's a 24-foot maximum, and a 3-story is. We looked, we talked to a lot of builders, and there's just nothing in this market like that. That's kind of why that is like that. But yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Right, thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
We'll open up the public hearing. I'll read you the rules. Before you begin, please state your name for the record. Speak into the microphone so your comments can be recorded. Please limit your statements to 3 minutes. You are not allowed to combine or bank minutes to speak on behalf of others. Please phrase your opinions in the forms of statements, not questions. A public hearing is your opportunity to express your opinions to the Planning Commission and not a time to ask questions of or to expect dialogue between yourself and the Planning Commission or city staff. Please address your comments to the Planning Commission, not to the public. The Commission might ask questions about your comments in order for them to better understand you. In the future, note that if you have questions or need to discuss an issue, you may meet with the Planning Commission members or the appropriate city staff member before the public hearing where dialogue can take place. You may provide a written statement as your input for a hearing. You may read your entire statement or summarize it. The 3-minute limit still applies. You may provide a copy of a written statement to the city recorder. He will make copies for the Planning Commission, and the written statement will become part of the public record. However, the written submitted statement will not be included in the minutes of the meeting. All right, we'll open our public hearing on this issue. Anyone that would like to comment?
I'm Karen Palke, live in North Logan. Looking at these plans, would have two concerns. One is you have that little green space in the middle, which is basically not available. You know, the practical side of it, it will not be available to all the people that are in the blue areas and only in the red if they're facing the green space. And that's still kind of a small area. I have a daughter who lives in Ireland, and they have bigger green spaces than that, and they have many developments with limited land and a green space in the middle. So there's that concern. The other concern is 3 stories is a pain and a half. You know, everybody I know would be willing, most people would be willing to go up to the 2-story. But I really got in great shape going up and down 2 stories, and I would not have considered a 3-story. And I think that there are many people that will not consider a 3-story, and that there should be a mix of 2 and 3-story in there if that's if you have to have higher elevation.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Bill Talbert. I live in North Logan. I spoke when we went through this discussion before, and I remember in that discussion the issues were the parking, being swarmed with the parking of this development and maintaining the green spaces. And the elevation was an issue. I heard Scott in his opening comments indicate that they're at least 3 stories high, quote. And then we heard Mr. Brown here comment that they could be a mixture of 2 and 3-story. But I'm worried about the 4-story and the 5-story and the apartment approach to things, which will increase the parking issues and snow removal issues and traffic issues and everything else. I would appreciate some more clarification on. I think Mr. Brown mentioned that there were conditions that they would meet as they finalized their plan. I'd like to know what those conditions are. Is it 3 stories and 24 feet, which I think was the number he gave, or is it 4 stories and 5 stories and other issues? So the conditions that he's going to follow that's part of your approval, I think need to be crystal clear at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jesse Jensen, I actually live in Nibley, but I own one of the businesses on that map. So I own the old Golden Corral building. I have multiple, I have no problem with them wanting to do something back there. It's fine, I get it. But I have questions whether or not they actually have easement to that property, because that property, when it was originally set up, that road was set up for those 3 buildings, which are all owned by the same person. They've since been broken up. That piece of property in the back, I have doubts that they have easement from Main Street. And when I bought my building, I ran that through my attorney, and my attorney said there is absolutely 0 access to that property off of Main Street through your property. That doesn't mean they can't go that way to the north, but That was one of my concerns when I bought that building, was the easement. My other issue is I'm already, that detention pond on there, I am already draining part of his property into my detention pond, even though it's my property. So that worries me. Where's the water going? Where's the water moving? That's a little bit of an issue on there. And I already have a lot of people that try to cut through my parking lot to get to Four Seasons. And then they have to turn around when they realize there's not a road there. So that's a huge issue for me about parking and the way those are facing my parking lot. So people are going to want to park in my parking lot and use to access that property, which I have, that would be a huge problem for me. I've also had multiple, I mean, you can check the police records. I have really good cameras on my building there where I've had multiple drug deals, people getting arrested in my back parking lot. What happens is people park in my parking lot, they'll walk to the dispensary, buy drugs, come back to my parking lot, sell drugs to people using their medical marijuana card because the dispensary is just to the north. So those are all of my concerns. I have no problem with them doing that. The easement is one of my issues, is whether or not that's actually valid. I have questions whether it really is.
Okay. Tell me again which building you own.
I own the old Golden Corral building.
Okay.
The one on the bottom. The one on the bottom. That's my truck parked right there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen.
You can ask whatever you want. So again, I'm not against this. Like I'm in the flooring business. I'm all for it.
So
Kind of
this
what
one
they're doing.
shows, I mean, the access on the back,
Yep.
is that your access?
So I have access right here. I have access right here, and I have access right here. The dump truck comes through, picks up garbage here, picks up, turns the corner, picks up my garbage, and pulls out. Bell comes through and does the same thing, right? And one of the problems we have is people come down Main Street, they don't want to cut this corner that's right here, it's just off the map. They'll cut the corner here and then realize they can't go through, right? And I already have a huge problem with that, right? Like, look, I have hours and hours of film. You want to see it? I've got really good cameras on it. And then people will come park here, walk into the dispensary, come back. Like it's an issue. It's
Okay.
an issue. Like it's one of the reasons I put in the cameras.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Seth Tolbert, resident of North Logan. I just have a question. I'm just looking at this for the first time. I see a note down there that says there's guest parking stalls of 19. I'm having a hard time seeing those 19 on the map. I could count maybe 12. So can somebody point out where all the guest stalls are? Because it seems like there's not a lot of guest parking for a community like that.
Yeah, I can't see any guest parking.
Thank you.
I'm assuming that there's guest parking for 3, 2 more. Right, that's 8, 10, 12. I count 12.
In front of the detention.
What's that?
In front of the detention.
South of the stormwater. Oh, here. Yeah. Another 7. Okay. All right.
Thank you. Anyone?
Hi, my name is Tim Tolbert. I am not necessarily opposed to this project. However, based on the location, actually very close to the new city center, and where it's snugged in next to Four Seasons, it would seem to me that this is an excellent location to do a business. It's zoned commercial. That's what we're trying to get rezoned to turn it residential. My understanding of the master plan was we have a city center that has a mixture of businesses and residences, and everything I've seen coming through these planning commissions are residences, condominiums, townhomes, dense, easy money for developers, easy money for the city. And what I'm not seeing is the promised delivery on the master plan, which is mixed businesses, and more driving more commerce and creating a true city center that is walkable, i.e. I get out of my house, I walk to the grocery store, I walk to the bakery, I walk to the whatever. I guess we got a dispensary. I didn't know that. Maybe I'll visit there after this meeting. But the point is that like we need to get some cohesiveness around what these plans are rather than having all these developers rolling in and just saying, hey, let's rezone something that's already commercial. There's probably plenty of people who would like commercial zoning. But let's rezone and cram some more houses in there, some more condos. Let's fill up the schools. Let's drive more traffic in here. Let's have more parking problems. Like, let's start using our brains about which of these problems we're trying to solve and have a cohesive plan on this. I have a development that's getting jammed in next to one of my properties that is would be well better suited to sit here with 4-story apartment buildings and things like that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Brian Carling. I sent a formal email through. So I own the property which is just directly south, on the south end on the east side. It's right next to the very odd access point that's only 33 feet wide. My comments were that I am strongly in support of the rezone. There's several reasons for this. I've owned the property, bought it, near the end of the world when COVID was here and things weren't doing very well. There is zero interest in having another related auto industry in that location. It's been zoned commercial, and I got to tell you, as the owner, there's no interest there. There's not cross traffic. The Four Seasons to the east, and I believe the north, is, in my opinion, very attractive, very desirable, and I believe full. I also have developed other properties. I would hope that you would allow the developer to not have too many restrictions, because no matter what, if we reduce the density, the future homeowners, whether they're rental or not, everybody will pay that price. So I'm a testimony of one that there's not a lot of interest. This does feel like even though it would be higher density, I mean, the density is going to have to go somewhere for all of our children to live. And I'm willing to do either an outright sale if it was right. I want to be treated fair. That road needs to be widened. I'm also open to a land swap that would be fair. But the 33 feet is not going to serve anybody very well because there's multiple access issues. It looks like mine may be the one key access, and I'm very, very willing to go along. I will probably apply for a similar rezone if this were to go through. I wish I would have been contacted. I would have piggybacked with it. Again, my name and phone number is available to anyone on the record. Thanks for all you do. I would highly encourage you to consider this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Laurie Robinson. My concern is general, not just this specific. 3-level living to make room for our children. I don't suppose any of us in this room really wish our children to be going up 3 stories with an infant on a hip and a toddler in hand, and that's what happens in 3-level living. I think it's a mistake for this city to be pushing 3 levels or more. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
A lot more people than last night. My name is Cindy Beeston. I want to go on record again as being opposed to the city center plan that you have come up with. I was at the meetings where you were soliciting input from the citizens of North Logan. I was at the meeting, one of the few citizens at the meeting where the consulting firm who was gathering the information reported to the city council and the planning commission, and nowhere did he say the citizens want 3- and 4-story or more housing. Nowhere. They didn't want any of this. And I think it's the vision of a few developers, and I think it's the idea of extra tax revenue that's causing you to be swayed to go against the views and the wants of the citizens.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Blake Parker. I'm own Parker Real Estate, and I own this property. And I used to do a lot of development myself. I was very involved with the city back in the day when the city center zone and development was originally planned. I was on the city's economic development committee. The one thing that became very apparent in order to make a city center work is rooftops. You've got to have residents in the area. To go and build something, theaters, parks, whatever was originally planned for the city center, historically, you can look at other cities, those things fail if you don't have the rooftops. I understand completely what the city is doing with their master plan, meeting Utah's legislative mandate for affordable housing and trying to get as many units on property as you can without necessarily them being apartments. Owner occupied is great if we can make it work. In my business, I see more and more kids that, I'll call them kids, that don't even want to own. They see themselves as renters, and the payment is a little bit less than owning, and that's fine. But I do like this plan. I know that there have been several iterations. My brother still owns the office building up on the northwest corner there. And he and I own part of the land here. But as far as what has been discussed and everything, I understand the issues of open space and all, but here again, it is the state legislature that has really put the demand out there for as many units as you can make and affordable. And I personally don't like the idea of the 3-story, but it is the way to get more units on the ground, and it's a tough one. I don't know how to work around that, but I do appreciate the comments. This property was originally, I bought it planning on doing a 3rd phase of Four Seasons, but given the mandate from the state, owner-occupied units are definitely the preferred way to go, and that's why it's going the way that it is, and I've let somebody else do it instead of trying to do it myself. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Blake, Mont Robinson, lived in North Logan probably more than half of you here. I've watched North Logan develop and grow. I actually own a townhome over in the Cove, so I'm making general statements. I've watched parking and everything explode in the valley. If any of you have gone from Logan to Smithfield between 3:30 and 7:30, you'll notice that it's LA traffic. And then working for Cache County School District, I never go on Main Street. You can't get through. And at those times of the morning and night, most of the people are going in 4th North, or 4th East, 6th East, and 8th East, and yet brings more traffic. Now, this also applies to the zoning that's wants to be changed again. I see so much of 3-story, and someone who builds them, they don't work. If you've ever been in any of those 3-story buildings, the top floor does not have any air conditioning, and people croak. You just can't do it unless you change the way we're doing things. I would much rather be like you'll see over in River Heights, a planned area that's 1 and 2 stories and larger garages. I can't even pull a car in my garage over at the Cove. It's too small. Everything is compact and it's too small. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Russell Goodwin. My understanding for many years is that 20th North would be a through street. I'm not totally familiar with the layout here, but I've been before you many times with other development proposals and general plan thoughts and whatnot, and always ask the question, is 20th North through? And I'm always been told yes. So what I'm seeing here is that it's not, it's being broken up. And I would urge you to maintain what you've held to in the past of 20th North as a through street.
Thank you, Mr. Goodwin. Anyone else? All right, we'll close this.
I don't use my home
You got 1 minute.
After listening to other people, I want to say we need to ask ourselves as a city what kind of people we want to live here. And generally, I think we're looking at families. And if we want to encourage young families to live in our community and grow our community, then we need to look at housing that will appeal to them. And if I was a young family, like this other woman said, I wouldn't want to be dragging my kids up 2 flights of stairs. And time again, the city has shot down proposals for small single family homes on small lots. That would be much more family friendly than this. You know, what kind of people do we want to be in our community? If we want it to be family oriented and have young families bring in life and vitality, we need to build housing that will appeal to them. A smaller home on a smaller lot is just as cost effective as a 3-story townhome.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else?
Craig Loosely. Just one comment. I think parking's an issue. Four Seasons, if you take the perimeter of Four Seasons, they're parking out on the road, the city road. And I just don't agree with that. You go up the road to the health clinic, and it's the same issue. There's just not the parking. And I've noticed as a builder that a lot of these garages, they designate them as a parking spot, but usually they are not. They're filled with other things than vehicles. And so that pushes an issue, you know, where do you park? So that's my concern. I think it's probably a good project, but I think that the parking issue is a big one. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll close this public hearing. Commissioners, we get to discuss, and you're far away from me. So we'll move Gavin away.
So one concern I heard was what are the conditions being placed on the property? So I want to start with summarizing those that are in the staff report, and then we can talk some more and see if there's anything else that needs to be added. But so one is making a meaningful reduction in overall density and reconfiguration to meet the intent of the MXCC zone. Site plans shall be updated to clearly communicate where general buildings and row buildings are proposed. Applicants shall provide side and rear architectural details. And the next one related to that, applicants shall provide several variations in colors, materials, and architectural elements. And then 5, a traffic impact study shall be commissioned and provided. And then 6, the finalized owner occupancy deed restriction mechanism shall be incorporated into the development agreement. So that's where we're starting from. And I guess I'll open the conversation then on the building types. I'm curious, Scott. It's not immediately apparent to me, and I'm not finding in the MXCC zone or in the form-based code if there's the ability to go 100% residential or if there's a commercial element requirement as well. And if there is a commercial requirement element, I'm not seeing that on here. The general buildings just look like row buildings again to me. So I don't see 2 building types, I see 1.
Yeah, good point. So this particular property, because it's in the west side transition and it doesn't have frontage on any public street, it does not have a commercial requirement. Let me hop over to the map here. I think that might be helpful just to zoom out a little bit on this property. So if we look at the subject property, it's these 2 parcels right here. A question was raised, 2000 North, it is a master plan street, and it is going to connect east and west and tie further into the city east of this property. It will go through the city center itself, and it will continue eastward. So that is a master plan street. It will connect, but this property does not have frontage on 2000 North. This is that narrow access lane that was mentioned in public comment, 33-foot wide access lane into the property here, and then the secondary point of egress onto Main Street was proposed through here. So those are the access points, but because they don't have frontage on a public street, they are not required to have a commercial element in the project.
Okay. So then, in staff's opinion, looking at the two building types, are we meeting the intent of two building types? It feels like one single or two roof lines are changed, and now we called it a second building type.
Yeah, I would agree. So the proposal is for a general building and a row building, and the form-based code calls for slightly different requirements between the two. The general building was more established as more like a stacked flat condominium. It wasn't necessarily designed or intended to be for row buildings, but it just is not architecturally supposed to look like a row building. Okay. So I do think that there is some work to be done to differentiate between the two building types.
I agree.
Anything else, Porter?
No, come back to me. Probably.
Teresa.
Let me compose some thoughts.
Is there an easement issue?
Yeah.
That is a good question. So out to this area here, I was not aware that there was a contested easement. It's likely something the property owner and the developer would want to certainly track down and verify. It is certainly something that would become reviewed at the subdivision phase. So if the rezone for this were to go forward in whatever shape it may take, the next step would be to plat it as a building lot and then to work on actually getting those details figured out. But certainly something that is a concern if it doesn't exist.
Any other questions? Blake?
Yeah. Is there value in the proposal for widening to 33 feet, Scott?
33 feet does meet the fire code minimum. Given the access here, 26 feet is technically the minimum for a fire access lane. A project of this scale does need to have 2 points of egress, so it can't rely on just that 33-foot lane to the south. But it does allow for 2-lane traffic and for emergency vehicle response if need be.
Teresa?
I have an issue with the guest parking numbers and the parking in general. Because, I'm just looking at it. It looks like, are they counting 2 spaces for each townhouse?
The proposal, I can go back here and show you.
I'm looking at the purple and green and red one.
Let me open up their more recent configuration here. And we can certainly have the developers opine if I misspeak here, but I believe that the intent is that each building has a 2-car garage on the lower level, and then this gray area in front is a traditional driveway where you could have 2 more vehicles parked in front of the unit. So each unit would have 4 dedicated parking spots immediately on site, and then the guest parking are sprinkled throughout the project.
Yeah, I just think that the guest parking that's like in between the rows of buildings is going to be used by the people who live there. They just will. Anyway, because we don't have I can't see numbers and stuff to say how wide is that actually for each building. And the question comes up, are the garages big enough, which we've talked about at other meetings, and is that space in front of each house enough really for 2 vehicles? So anyway, I have an issue with the number of parking spaces.
I agree with Teresa. I think overall this isn't really ready to move on to a change of zone or anything. I think a lot more work needs to be done. I think it's pretty in a lot of a lot of building intensity without places to go. I'm concerned I would have a hard time passing a positive recommendation on. That's where I'm at.
Does the parking meet the requirement?
Yeah, it technically would. Yeah, with how it's configured. If there are in fact 4 spaces per unit, it would far exceed the parking requirement.
Because I actually don't have a problem, with the overall thought of this kind of situation in this place. I don't have a problem
This
with
idea,
that.
yes, I don't have a problem with that.
I just have a problem with the number of units and the parking. I do, I'm the parking, I know I'm the parking person.
No,
I always bring up the parking because I live a nightmare with the parking around me, but I just have a problem with the parking. So
I think a little more work needs to be done.
'cause
The idea is fine. The idea, the
I would just
concept
rather
is fine.
see less units and maybe, just less units and more parking.
And some green space that the other units can
Yeah, I mean, they
enjoy
have a
a
little
little bit.
walkway there. They can go in there, but you wonder, would they feel like, anyway, yeah. I agree
Anyway,
with you.
that's my concern. Any other concerns? Any other?
So couple things. One is the general plan that we put a lot of work into as a community. We had a lot of feedback. Our consultants said we got better than average with other cities they've worked with. And I believe the general plan reflects that input generally across the community that was provided. And we moved here to North Logan because of the small town. We love Cache Valley for that small town rural feel. And there's a lot of kids in this valley, right? And if we keep having 2, 3, 4 kids, right, we're looking at doubling the population in 20, 30 years, right? It's going to happen very quickly. And space in North Logan is particularly a challenge because we're landlocked. We can't go to the east through the mountains, and to the northwest and south we're landlocked. We can't annex anything else, and so space becomes an issue, and we need to have a dense area somewhere, and that's the plan. That's the intent of this general plan, is to put the density in the city center area, and most of the rest of the city is the rural feel, right? And so I think the density makes sense here. 3-story townhomes have the potential to look very nice. I think we're covering my concerns on appearance there in the conditions already. The other thing I wanted to just say before I'm done is I agree. I think this needs a lot more work. With the other MXCC zone change that we looked at, there's a very well thought out, very thorough plan that's been presented to us. And this one, we've looked at 4 or 5 different proposals tonight that we don't know which one is really going to go through, right? So I think there's some work to be done on that. I'm not ready to give a recommendation. I think we need to table it and put the conditions and look at this again in a future meeting.
Thank you, Porter. Blake, anything else?
Nope.
Teresa?
No, I think I agree with tabling it, and I hope that the developer considers some of our comments and concerns that we've expressed here, along with the staff comments too.
I would worry as a developer to, I would want to have a little bit done and more information done before I sent this back to the Planning Commission.
Sorry, one last thought really quick is I actually like the ring concept better for the green space in the middle. I think it gives that community feel that we're looking for, and that was a similar standard we applied to the last zone change proposal, right? So I like that, and I think there's still the challenge of the fence line, but
okay.
I like the ring one.
Well, I sense that we want to table this and get more information.
Yeah, my question is, do we need to provide our additional conditions now to table it, or?
I mean, the Planning Commission can make a number of decisions here. They can recommend, they can make a recommendation to City Council. That is, that your role is a recommending body, reviewing and recommending body with this type of a land use proposal. You can also move to table it and ask for additional information. You can make very specific recommendations for what you would like to see with a resubmittal. I think that what is in the staff report, like you'd mentioned, is probably a good place to start, but certainly not the end all be all of potential, curiosities, questions, requests for adjustments. I think that it would be beneficial to the developer to get that feedback so they know which direction to take. So I think you guys have provided a lot of that feedback, but it may be beneficial to maybe be specific as to what you'd like to see in the form of a revised plan. Also, we can open it up for the developer to address some of the comments or concerns that have been made tonight, and they may have some questions from the Planning Commission to help guide their direction. You're open. You have the ability to have that conversation as well.
I'd like to hear a response.
Mr. Brown, do you want to address any of that?
I think, what he mentioned is my biggest thing. I mean, in response to what you said, that last one with the bigger open space around the ring road concept is the one that we last submitted, and that was the plan. But yeah, the specific feedback would be helpful. We kind of, me and Scott have gone back and forth several times, and look at the code and what the market wants, and Scott's ideas. But it would be great to have, okay, this is what you'd like to see. When you say more work done, what exactly? And especially this is the first step in many steps. And so we want to make sure we're on the right path.
Okay.
So
I think the staff recommendations is a good start. What we have here with the staff recommend. Anything else you want to add?
I would like to add the parking.
Parking. We'd like
I
to
didn't look-
address the
that
visitor
wasn't-
parking.
That wasn't on the staff thing, I don't think.
Density was.
I can't.
Density was.
Density was, but not.
Density was, but
Well,
actual
density will drive
parking
parking.
was not.
What did you say, Blake?
I think density will drive parking.
Okay. That staff recommendations, parking.
Do we care about the easement right now?
I think that's an owner issue.
I think
not
that's
city
something they
issue.
should figure out on their own before
Before
they come back.
though?
Yeah.
Well,
Or-
so we can
Yeah, I'd say-
include,
and we've looked at that. We can, if you'd like to see documentation or whatever, we can show that.
I think that needs to start now and then confirmed at the subdivision phase.
Yeah, I do too.
yeah, if I was the developer, I'd want it to know it sooner than later, so.
And we
Before I
have
bought the
looked at it.
property, I
didn't
think I
bring
would wanna do that.
documentation with me, but yeah.
Okay. And then I think the building types, I'm not seeing two distinct building types.
Right.
They look
And
very
that's in the
close.
staff recommendation, isn't it?
I think the architect, well, is it the architecture?
I can't get
Says
to it on here.
Several it's just calls about color. It doesn't talk specifically about two different kinds. It talks about side and rear, and it talks about variation in colors, materials. So do you dare try a motion? You want me to? What do you want to do?
Well, have you tried it? Have you?
Go ahead. One of you go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
I will just make a motion that the commission tables this one and would like more information concerning the staff recommendation, the guest parking, and should we include the easement thing? The
Yep.
Easement in there?
And the two different
And the
types.
two different building types. Is that good enough motion?
Okay. Teresa's made a motion
I
to
second.
include all that stuff.
I second.
Do I need to repeat it? And Fort Parker seconds it. It's been moved to table this until we have further information on these things. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your time. Thank you. All right, let's move on.
You guys are better company.
His screen isn't working.
Well, mine, I can't get that on it, so
When I'm turning and looking this way,
You
it
know,
feels like
yours
I'm
doesn't
ignoring
move.
him.
Yours doesn't move, but mine moves.
mine
so
doesn't
it should.
move and I can't do it. Okay, let me just,
This doesn't move. He only moves.
this doesn't
If
move.
you want to move it
Or-
and play with this, mine moves. This moves.
Okay. All right, let's move on to public hearing number 2. Scott, do you want to, are we to that point?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So this second agenda item is for a 2-lot subdivision by the name of Hidden Hollow. And the reason why it's on the agenda for a public hearing is because it also is accompanied by a development agreement that needs to be approved legislatively. What that essentially means is this subdivision normally is not developable unless there is a modification made to the code, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But this item is normally a administrative item, but because we're looking at a development agreement, it is legislatively considered. So the Planning Commission will make a recommendation on this item to the City Council, and then the City Council will act as the land use authority to approve of that development agreement itself. So I'll hop over to the staff report real quick. The location for this property is way up on the bench, furthest eastmost extents of the city. It's in the area that we call the Foothill Residential. It's zoned RE5, so it's a very large zone. Residential estate is intended to have low density, mainly because there are some challenges on the bench with slopes and topography and water availability and some of those things that prevent higher intensity development. But that's the location of the property here. I'm going to hop over to the subdivision plat itself to show you the configuration here. So it's essentially breaking that acreage into two building lots. Lot 1 on the west side, lot 2 on the east side. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so you guys can see them a little bit better. Lot 1 is about 10.5 acres, and lot 2 is just a hair under 20 in area. Now, one of the things that prevents this piece of property from developing under the existing code as it exists today is because of some regional issues. And so you need to zoom out a little bit to understand this. But if we look here, this is up on the bench. Here's the subject property that you'll see. The development further to the south and a little bit further north is both Canyon Ridge and Wildecrest subdivisions, and it ties into the rest of Canyon Ridge that connects into the rest of the city over on 3100 North, and then additional connections up above. But when you look to the south, this area of town is lacking east-west connectivity, which has been an issue for quite some time. There's a number of reasons why those connections haven't been made yet, but the city, because of the development pattern continuing on essentially a dead-end trajectory, we've adopted some ordinances over the years that has been aimed at limiting development until we get some more east-west connectivity. But this piece of property is being considered for development tonight because of a couple of things. Given the gross acreage of the property, which is a hair over 30 acres, in the RE5 zone would allow for upwards of 6 homes to be built on this acreage. And if anybody knows the topography up there, it's going to be a very challenging location to develop. But the city would love to see a reduction in density on this piece of property. And there's been a number of efforts over the last several years to try to incentivize a reduction in density and to bring those unit counts down. And we as a city have been working with the property owner on a proposal to extend 2 items. One is a city water line and the Bonneville Shoreline Trail through the property further to the north. And as part of that process, we need to acquire easements. We need to work with the property owner to get those improvements installed. And we had a question raised to the city council of would the city entertain a small development on this area if it meant that we could obtain those easements, install those improvements, which are tremendous public benefits, but also in exchange for a reduction in density, a permanent expungement of density on that piece of property. So instead of having a future 6-lot subdivision, we'd reduce it down to just 2. So 2-lot subdivision is what we're seeing here. In order for the city to even consider that, we would have to go through, review this proposal by its merits. Is there sufficient public benefit to warrant an exemption to our code? And we do believe that this is something that is a win-win situation for both the property owner, the city, and the long-term development on the bench. And so this is the proposal that is laid out is a 2-lot subdivision accompanied by this development agreement that would grant that code exemption, but also expunge the development rights on the property down to just 2 in perpetuity. Now, furthermore, the proposal is that only 1 building lot be buildable today if this is approved, and that the second building lot is not going to be buildable until those access issues are resolved. And so the idea being that whether 2300 North, which is a master plan street, is connected down to 16th East, or 2600 North, if that connection is made up to the bench, either of those would satisfy the access issues that have been a concern. But then that second lot would then be eligible for a building permit. That is what is anticipated in that development agreement if this is approved. So that's the crux of the proposal. Because it's a legislatively adopted development agreement, we do need to open it up for a public hearing and discuss those public benefits with the public. And then the action would be a recommendation to the city council.
All right. Same rules. Do I need to read them again?
You're welcome to.
Oh, I guess so. All right, here's the rules for the public hearing. Before you begin, please state your name for the record. Speak into the microphone so we can hear you. Please limit your statements to 3 minutes. You are not allowed to combine or bank minutes to speak on behalf of others. Please phrase your opinions in the form of statements, not questions. A public hearing is your opportunity to express your opinions to the Planning Commission, not a time to ask questions or to expect dialogue between yourself and the Planning Commission or city staff. Please address your comments to the Planning Commission, not to the public. The Commission might ask questions in order for us to better understand you. In the future, note that if you have questions or need to discuss an issue, you may meet with the Planning Commission members or the appropriate city staff before the public hearing. You may provide a written statement. You may read your entire statement or summarize it. A 3-minute limit still applies. You may provide a copy of a written statement to the city recorder. He will make copies for the Planning Commission, and it will become part of the public record. However, the written statement will not be included in the minutes. All right, we'll open this public meeting on the Hidden Hollow subdivision. Any comments, questions? Any comments? No comments. Great. Oh, are you standing up? Okay.
Hello, my name is Olga Tolbert, and one of the comments and concerns I have with that particular area is the seismic engineering that has been happening on that part of Wildercrest along with Canyon Ridge, and what the city's plans on addressing regarding that, because I wouldn't want somebody to purchase that property to build a house and have the city say it's unbuildable. So that's a concern I have.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we'll close this public hearing. Commissioners?
Scott, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Blake. Go ahead. I'll cut you. I've got a hammer here. I can stop you.
I'm gonna have to move seats.
You better.
I apologize, guys. I couldn't see it on the agreement or the design. Are you restricting building above the trail or not on these two lots?
No, the proposal would be that the Bonneville Shoreline Trail will be as high up, tucked onto the hillside as possible to preserve the buildable area.
Yeah, that's really my only question.
On the seismic concerns, I think we have a geotechnical ordinance, right? So how does that apply here?
Yeah, good question. So this area of town is a known geohazard area. It's mapped as such, and we have an ordinance that governs how to study and permit safe development on the bench. This subject property was part of a large geotechnical evaluation back with a previous subdivision by the name of Bonneville Hill Estates, Trail Estates. And they studied the whole hillside above this area, and they dug multiple trenches and verified some basic developability that would be required for any subdivision. But beyond that, once these are platted as building lots, before a building permit can be issued, there is a requirement that there is a site-specific geohazard investigation for each of these lots. So even more geologic hazard investigation will be done with each of these lots with the building footprint that is proposed for the structure to verify there are no fault lines, to verify slope stability, soil stability, and any geologic hazard that may be present on the property. And any recommendations that may be necessary in order for that building to be built safely. So that's what is required of any development up on the bench area. I'm sure the public have seen several test pits and trenches being dug on some of these properties in Wildercrest and in Canyon Ridge over the last several months. And that will be a very similar process for each of these building lots.
Okay.
So then you've got I'm trying to remember, there was one exhibit that actually showed the slopes and that there is buildable area. So that's one thing, is that's been confirmed, there's buildable area. And the second is that the geohazard ordinance requires that the engineering be done before a building permit's approved.
That's correct. Yeah.
Correct.
So it views the slope stability and the overall steepness of the slope. So that's what we've seen so far. But yeah, there will be subsurface exploration done as part of that geohazard investigation.
I think that addresses your concern also, right? Thank you. Any other comments? I think I sense that we're happy to send on a positive recommendation.
Yep. I'll make a motion. So I move that we forward a positive recommendation to City Council regarding the proposed Hidden Hollow subdivision at approximately 2700 North, 2350 East, subject to the facts and findings in the staff report, along with the proposed legislatively approved development agreement.
Yep, and the conditions in the staff report.
Yes.
I didn't see conditions. I just saw facts and findings.
There should be one in there to satisfy the
There's-
DRC
Okay.
comments.
There's one.
We'll add the conditions in there too.
Okay.
Great.
It's been moved and
Seconded.
seconded to send on a public positive recommendation to the City Council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. We'll send that on to the City Council. Let's move on to public hearing number 3. West 2500 North Gateway Corridor rezone. Scott.
A lot of rezones. Okay, so this particular rezone is a little bit different in the sense that this is a city-initiated proposal. It stems from a lot of work that we've done on this corridor. Again, following the general plan, which envisioned this corridor to essentially, over time, have a facelift and plan for future, commercial corridor along this gateway entry to the city. Following the general plan adoption, we, as a city, started looking at creating ordinances that would govern future development in these areas. And I'm going to hop into this staff report just so you guys can see a few of these images here. I'm going to go to the general plan first to show, okay, here's the subject properties, and this is in what we call the 2500 North Corridor. Following the adoption of the general plan, we worked on creating new zoning classifications for several areas throughout the city. 2500 North was one, Main Street was another, Wolfpack Way was another. The city center form-based code obviously was its own unique code. But for the 2500 North Corridor, we created an ordinance for both the west side and the east side of Main Street. They have different development goals and purposes. And west of Main Street, the vision had been that we want to create this as a visually appealing corridor with high functioning commercial as developability changes down the next several years. So we adopted what was called the Gateway Commercial West Zone for this area of town. That initial ordinance was reviewed, and before we applied the zoning to various properties, we had some members of the public and some property owners and business owners voice some concerns over the draft language as it was originally drafted. And so we pushed pause on any zone changes to this area and worked with those individuals on some updates and some things we felt like could be some good short-term opportunities for economic and commercial growth on the corridor, while still preserving the vision and goals of the general plan, which looks further out, 10, 20 years. And the general plan, of course, envisions a higher quality aesthetic, as you'll see in the this is the future zoning aspirational images from the general plan, where we anticipate there being much higher intensity commercial on the corridor. So we worked through those over the last several months, and those adjustments to the Gateway Corridor West zone were adopted by the council last month. And with those updated adjustments, we are now moving forward with the actual application of the zoning to these properties. So I'll scroll back up and show you the subject properties here. Subject properties, some are whole parcels, some are partial parcels, but what it represents is essentially a 330-foot frontage on both sides of the street to preserve this corridor for those development purposes. And you'll notice that the corner property, the parcel on the east side, the northeast side, is not included in the zone change proposal because it is zoned with the Main Street Commercial Gateway Zone, which has a slightly different goal and purpose. So that's why you'll see that those properties are shown as part of the proposal. This action by the Planning Commission, again, it's a legislative action, it's a rezone proposal. And so as part of this action, Planning Commission will serve as a recommending body to City Council. But we do need to open up a public hearing on this item and take any public feedback.
Right.
Go again.
We're going to have a public hearing. If you'd like to make a comment, please state your name for the record, speak into the microphone so we can hear you. Please limit your statements to 3 minutes. You can't bake minutes to speak on behalf of others. Please phrase your opinions in the forms of statements, not questions. It's a public hearing as an opportunity to express your opinions to the commission and not a time to ask questions or have a dialogue between yourself and the commission or staff. Please address your comments to the Planning Commission, not to the public. In the future, note that if you have questions or need to discuss an issue, you may meet with the Planning Commission members or the appropriate city staff before the public hearing where dialogue can take place. You may provide a written statement as your input for a hearing. You may read your entire statement, but you still only have 3 minutes. And you can provide a copy of a written statement to the city recorder. He will get that on, he will make copies for the Planning Commission. All right, let's open this public hearing about West 2500 North Gateway Corridor rezone. Any comments?
I think the commissioners know me fairly well. We've been in a lot of work sessions, but I appreciate
You still need to tell us your name.
Craig Loosley. I'm sorry, and I appreciate Scott and Alan for their efforts and yours too, each of the commissioners. I think it's been you've stepped back and taken note of our concerns, the small businessmen down there, the short and also the long term. So I'm excited what's been done. I don't know that we could have done anything much different and still keep the vision that the corridor vision. So I'm in favor of this moving forward. So again, thank you for your time in seeing this through, because you did step back. This could have went sooner as far as the vote went, but everybody stepped back, and we appreciate that, as do other landowners down in that corridor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your input, Craig. Anyone else? All right, we'll close our public hearing and we will hopefully be ready for a vote from the commission. I think we've talked about this a lot. Any comments from anybody?
No, this has been a long time in coming, and I'll second your thanks to the landowners there who have been really good to work with. I appreciate that a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge for the record all the effort that went into this, right? There was a lot of working sessions, involvement from the public on getting this right. We think we have the right vision for that area, and I think what we've landed on here is the right move that benefits both the short term and the long term. And there's been a lot of work on this, and it's good to see it come to a close here.
I agree, Porter. I hope that you all understand that we just don't make these things up and say, okay, let's go with it. This has been a lot of work and a lot of input, and we appreciate it. And a lot of work on part of the city staff, too. So I think we're ready for a motion. Who wants to do it?
She wants to do it.
Teresa, go for it.
I want to do it.
Go for it, Teresa.
I could do it.
Let's move along.
Okay. All right. I move that we forward a positive recommendation to City Council regarding the city-initiated zoning map amendment of 16 full parcels and 14 partial parcels from the commercial general and manufacturing heavy commercial zones to the 2500 North Gateway Corridor West Zone, subject to the facts, findings,
and conditions.
I don't think there's
And
conditions.
I don't think there's any
Of the
conditions.
staff report.
All right, it's been moved and somebody seconded it.
I'll second
And seconded. Porter made the motion. Teresa seconded that we send on a positive recommendation to the city council of the rezone for the Gateway West 2500 North Gateway Corridor rezone proposal. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Thank you. I think that's it for our public hearings for the night. We'll move on to item number 4. Scott, do you want to take us into this one?
Yeah, I appreciate the public hanging out as we get through those public hearings early on in the meeting, and I believe this is what most are curious to hear about. Again, this is the Ashbourne. It's going by the Ashbourne name. It's a city center mixed-use rezone proposal. I'm going to open up the staff report here real quick and kind of run through a few things because I'm not sure if there's likely folks in the audience who weren't here for the meeting back in July where the Planning Commission first reviewed this proposal. But we'll take a quick step back and kind of walk through this again. The proposal is for a piece of property that is located on the corner of 2200 North and 400 East. It's the property just to the south of the Alpine Orthopedics and Specialty Hospital parcels and to the east of the Three Peaks Medical Building. It's currently zoned R112. That's a single-family residential zone. That's the zoning that's been applied to the property for several years. And the property is just a hair under 10 acres in size. The proposal is to change the zoning from R112 to mixed-use city center, which would be essentially in what we call the east side transition area of the city center district. So this subject properties you'll see on these exhibits are they're part of in the general plan and city center master plan calls for mixed use, attached housing, but also a single family buffer on the east side of the property. Let's scroll down just a little bit here and show you based on what was proposed originally. You'll see that there is a proposal that essentially is a mix of 3 different building types. On the far west in blue, you'll see those are what we call general buildings, and they are commercial office buildings that are proposed. The green buildings in the center are row buildings, so townhomes you'll see there. The orange on the south side, these are also general buildings with the intended purpose of live-work units. And then on the far east, are in the red here, are the yard buildings. So these are single-family, small cottage homes on the far east. So that was the original proposal. When you scroll down, the updated proposal shows a few key changes. The first is an overall reduction of units, of 12 units pulled out in a couple of strategic locations. In the center core, it has been opened up to create a more open, contiguous open space. And then also on this easternmost row of row buildings where additional parking has been added on both sides of the development. In addition, there's an addition of a couple of these townhomes converting into LiveWorks on the south side. So 5 of them are proposed to be LiveWorks. And then the open space, I'm going to scroll down a little bit more. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but that's the central contiguous area in the middle. An overall increase of 42 parking stalls. So the parking increases from 443 up to 485 stalls. And those are the primary adjustments that have been made to the site itself as far as overall configuration goes. Further on, the Planning Commission wanted to get more details on the architectural proposal. The original is shown here. This building you see is one of those general buildings on the far west side intended for commercial office. And then the row homes would appear to be a 3-story, as you see here, townhome product. The update to the overall architecture is quite a bit more variety, and it varies in many forms. Alternative roof pitches, alternative colors, alternative materials, and the developer has proposed several iterations of the row homes. Here's another one you see with some changes to the veneer, but you'll see there's also other design language changes along a whole row of townhomes. Their intent is to communicate that none of these will appear identical as you look up and down the rows of buildings. Here's another iteration that is proposed for variety, and then here's another one. The Planning Commission also asked for additional information on side and rear architectural renderings, which is being proposed in this image here, where all 4 sides of the structures are shown to have code-compliant materials and colors for the form-based code. Also on the rear, you'll see those garages on the lower level and then living above. Okay, these are the live work units. There's variation between the live work units. So you'll see that there's an intent to not have the same building on the south side on 2200 North. And then the Planning Commission also asked for architectural information for the cottage homes on the far east side. So the developer has provided those details to further communicate their intent on the architectural side of things. I believe that we've kind of gone through those key changes as I've explained them, so we'll skip through. On the traffic side of things, one of the things that was pending was the submittal of a traffic impact study. And we wanted to take a look at the traffic impact, both now, but also based on a comment from the Planning Commission, have a better understanding of what the traffic will look like when school is in session. We know that Greenville Elementary is just up the road, and there's just generally more traffic during the school year. And so what we found as the impact study was submitted was that the key intersections that emanate out from this project by a mile or so in either direction, those intersections continue to serve at a reasonable level of service, an anticipated level of service that is not failing. And the traffic impact study also carried with it an addendum specific to the Planning Commission's request for an analysis of the school year traffic. And the school year traffic is anticipated obviously to increase by several trips, and they projected that an additional 480 trips would be added to the network, but that the intersections would continue to function in an acceptable level of service. And that was kind of anticipated given the separation between the project and Greenville. They're far enough apart that the AM peak, we don't anticipate there being issues with the pickup and drop off at that building. All that said, our city engineer did take a look at this as well, and one of the things that they wanted to make sure was included in this project, and I'm going to scroll back up just to the site plan to communicate this, but that there be a left turn lane dedicated to the first entrance to the project heading east from the roundabout. So eastbound traffic that wants to enter the project at this first entrance point, we'd want to have a standalone left turn lane to ensure that they can get in without impeding traffic and backing up traffic into the roundabout. So you'll see in the staff report that is an added recommendation for that traffic impact analysis review. Okay, I'm going to continue further down here. Okay, parking we talked about, an increase of parking, 42 additional parking stalls are being proposed in addition to the reduction of 12 units, and so those directly offset themselves. But overall, I think parking was one of the larger concerns of the Planning Commission, so that is what has been proposed as an adjustment to the site is an additional 42 stalls, most of which are further to the east. Previously, the site did not have parking for guest parking on the easternmost unit, so that's where those were added. Some units were taken off of the end caps of this row of townhomes to accommodate those additional stalls. Okay, open space. When we first looked at this, the original site plan had shown in the center of the project a stormwater detention basin, and it was unclear, and based on some of the renderings, it felt as if that central area was going to be fairly deep and not very usable, given that it would have swells to allow for that water to accumulate. The developer has clarified what that will look like. Essentially over a 12-foot span, there'd be a 6-to-1 slope. Here's a cross section to scale to show you what that would look like from a steepness perspective. So it's not quite as bad as we had initially assumed, but good to understand that has been clarified. But in addition to just the concern about it being used as a detention basin, there is additional acreage being proposed with the removal of those 12 units. So here was the previously proposed and then the updated open space that you'll see here. Okay, no changes to the deed restricted owner occupied housing or other points of consideration. So I want to scroll down to the original recommendations, staff recommendations that were reviewed by the Planning Commission and updated in the staff report to communicate what has been changed. So initially, the applicant was asked to provide additional architectural renderings for the yard homes. That was provided. Additional variation in colors and architectural elements to be added for the row buildings and the general buildings. Those were provided. The rear architectural and side architectural details for the building types, those were provided. A traffic report to be reviewed by the DRC, which was provided and reviewed. The parking counts needed to be clarified and an increase in overall parking. That was updated and provided. And then the number of overall units needed to be reduced to better fit the open space and just a general reduction in density to improve parking and open space and other concerns. So that proposal obviously was 12 units, and so that was provided in that manner. The remaining conditions that staff has called out is a left turn lane in 2200 North. So we talked about that already. Incorporating the owner occupancy deed restriction with future review by the city council before the project goes to final approval. And that with this project where there is commercial and residential mixed in, the city will want to ensure that the commercial is built simultaneously and in direct proportionality with the residential. We want it to come along proportionally. So those are the conditions that are in the report, the high level overview of the updates. But I do feel like we should have the developers speak to those updates, have them discuss what changes they have made and why they have made them, and allow for the Planning Commission to ask any additional questions you may have.
Okay. Would we like the developer to come and talk to us for a minute?
Hello, I'm Tom Hill with White Pine Engineering. Scott kind of stole my thunder. He kind of explained everything we changed. So mostly here for any questions you guys have. But yeah, the biggest changes that were made after the last meeting were clarification of that open space in the middle. I was hoping to clarify that last meeting, and I was scrolling through the files to try to remember how deep we made that detention area in the middle. But the intent is to do, just 2 feet deep, really gradual. A 6-to-1 side slope is about half of what you typically see. Like if you're driving around commercial detention ponds, those are usually 3-to-1. So this is just like a 15% slope approximately. So very mowable, very usable. The intent there is just to make something that works a little bit better with stormwater quality flowing through and just using the space. And then we took the feedback in place from the Planning Commission, and the more we looked at it, we actually really agreed with the design of the east side was a little underparked previously, I think. And so adding those guest stalls by removing a few units strategically where it made the most sense to add some guest parking was added. And so I can't remember that number, but we are overparked from city code. Do you remember what that percentage number was? It was like
31%.
I think it's 131% is what was on the plans.
Yeah, so that's feedback that's been taken seriously, and we understand the concern there that a lot of times these garages are half parking and half junk. So that's understood. And then we also worked with the project architect just to provide a little bit more clarification and some more variety. That was we had a couple meetings with Scott since the last Planning Commission meeting, and that was some of his feedback was, we want to have some variation. We don't just want repetition throughout. So you see that with the different options with the architectural renderings. So yeah, I'm open to any other questions about the drawings if you guys have any.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
It's just hard to tell from the picture because I'm kind of looking at the picture with all the colors. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But so when the townhouse is there, it has a garage, and then is there ample parking in the driveway too for the?
So the
for
driveways aren't really parking driveways. They're like 4 feet concrete aprons. They're really just to make a grade transition.
So if people aren't going to park in their garage, they have to choose somewhere else on the thing.
That's right. And the intention is so let me break down the parking a little bit. So the northwest corner was intended as additional parking to help out with the
across the street
parking situation. I would say that first row, maybe a little bit of that second row is really for the commercial, kind of where you can see the ADA stalls designated. That next row, and maybe even a little bit more, that's already exceeding the commercial requirements. So those first few rows of townhomes would be using those. And then on the north and south end of those units, there's ample parking through there. If you do the count, there's actually, depending on who uses the commercial, but I think there's enough that every single unit would have an exterior parking space as well.
Okay, but if somebody chose to use the garage for a storage room, then our parking, to me, the numbers a little, because aren't we counting the garage space as two
Mhm.
parking
That's correct.
spaces?
Yes.
It's just a concern to me because I see open garages that don't have cars in them.
Well, and one of the comments, the owners here, one of the comments he made, I think is actually a wise comment. Obviously we don't want to underpark the situation, but in some ways it's good for people to keep a clean garage for the
Oh,
neighborhood.
I totally
And so
agree.
not that we should force them, hey, you have to park here. But I think that's actually a wise comment. If the space is there, people, I mean,
You
I
should
know that
use it.
personally, the more garage space I get, the more
I
parking
guess we
get.
want to know if the garages are bigger than the ones in the cove.
They are. So these are 500 square feet. A lot of that you see in townhomes are 400 square feet. They're just 20 by 20. So these are larger with that in mind.
And Teresa, are you saying that, so 30% would be 1 in 3 units doesn't park in the garage?
Right.
So are you saying that's too little still?
I would hope that people would, if they had 2 cars, would park in their garage. I just don't know that that's what people do. I mean, I do it because I like garages, but anyway, that's just me. It's the parking thing. And my other question with parking is the live and work, because where they're located, is there going to be on-street parking that close to the roundabout? I don't think so, right?
That's a question I have too. On the south end, live and work. I don't think there's
Because I just know
parking
where I
there.
live. I mean, the Four Seasons live and work, that there's a place in front of each of those places for the people who go there and buy your sourdough bread. I don't know them. I'm not making a comment for them, but they have great bread. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and so I just worry about the ones to the west. There's going to be, I mean, the people will.
They have to park.
Well, they're going to have to go
over
into the
there.
subdivision to park there. And it seems like the live and work that I see walking all the time is they park right in front of that. Do you understand?
The customers have a place to park. I
Yeah.
think that's what Teresa is saying.
Yeah.
We don't see that
Well,
here.
I can see it with these long, like where 17 and 18 are, and 9. I mean, those are supposed to
Yes,
be there.
but
if
on the
they're full
south.
from the people with the garage, it's just parking is
Yeah.
just hard to me.
And I think I see the 3 units or the 3 parking spots for the live work units. If you look at the snow plan, that's also where the snow retention goes. And so there's
in the parking stalls?
not in the stalls, but in
Okay. I was
the
gonna say, I
grass.
don't think we were using any parking stalls.
And my hope is that they don't get used because that space is there, but it's possible that they start getting filled with snow, especially in a heavy year. And that covers, the other thing is whether you're using the parking spots or not, that walkway there is meant to access those commercial units, and it gets covered. It's included in that snow retention. So that's something I'm concerned about as well. Scott, is there any reason we haven't looked at on-street parking for those? Is that just part of the traffic, or?
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to plan on-street parking as dedicated parking,
I see.
especially in the winter months where you're legally not allowed to park on the street during the evening hours. During the summer hours, the street 2200 North is going to be a 66-foot right of way, and it does have plenty of shoulder space to park vehicles during the summer. So that is possible to park there for those live work units. But I do think that internally to the project,
we can't take credit for those.
correct, and they are not calculating for those
No.
to be used.
So does anybody have any idea? Okay, we see the 5 that are closest to the roundabout. Like, anybody have any idea how long that red goes from the roundabout, which should be much farther than it is across the street? But like, how far? Do you understand my question?
I don't
Do you understand it?
I don't understand your question, Teresa.
Okay, the live work that's to the west.
Yes.
They have parking right in front of all their places.
Yes.
That's where people park.
Yes. But on the
over
south,
on
we're
Four
talking about the
Seasons.
south.
That's where people park, right in front. And I just say, like, maybe they could park right in front on the live and work to the east. But is there
Are
going to
you
be a place
saying
for
on
them
the
to
street?
park? Yeah, because that's where they park. I mean,
You want to just
the buildings that do it at Four Seasons, their customers park in front. They don't pull into Four Seasons and park. They park right in front. And so that's just my concern about where those live and works are.
You want to just
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but then you swap it, then you get it so close to the house. I mean, I would actually like to see the ones to the west flopped to the first green one. Does that make sense? I don't know. I just
So I see I agree with Teresa. I don't think there's enough parking on the southwest corner where there's live and work.
because really that's the customers who go to the other one that's just to the west and a little bit to the south of this development. They park the customers park in front.
Yeah,
They park in front. I mean,
because they want to park in front.
right.
They don't want to cross the street and get killed.
Well, across the street's full of the Cove people, so there's
That's
no
right.
place for them
That's
to
right.
park over there.
They're already parked there in their way.
Yeah. So anyway,
That's
just,
a big concern.
That's my
That's a
concern,
concern.
of the very west live
See
and
what you're
work ones.
saying.
I love the live and work
think
things.
so.
I think they're a great thing, but I just have a concern about those 5 where their customers going to park. If it's
Yeah,
not
they-
easy to park, people choose to go somewhere else.
I think we're very flexible in moving those. We've been trying to add those just based off of input from the city. Seems like that's
I
something
think
that's
they're great.
wanted,
I
so.
I don't want them to go away.
Yeah.
No, I like them. I like them.
And,
I
and
wonder-
shifting stuff around is no big deal. Like we're happy to.
Let me float something,
Sure,
Teresa.
so-
What if you took the west work units and moved them on the other side, on the east side of that first
Of
Right,
the
that's
access.
what I-
entrance?
yeah,
That's
just
what
right
you were
there.
saying? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And then swap. I see what you're saying. Okay.
So it'd be green
Then-
or
It'd be green,
Then-
orange,
So where there's-
orange, green.
Green, yes, okay. And then in that case, you're not getting, when they park on the street, they're not going to be parking that close to the roundabout.
But is that road we see in between the orange and green, is that where the left turn lane is, or is
Yes.
that farther
And-
down?
And that's my other question. Is there room there on 2200 North for another lane?
Yeah, so within the right of way, that center turning lane will need to be installed. There may be a need for a little bit of a bump out for that to occur. But yeah, there should be enough room. We'll have to kind of play with the engineering on the south side, obviously, to fit that in. But yeah, the intent being that there would be a decel lane left turn into this first access point right here.
So the left turn lane is between the orange and the green.
Correct.
Yes,
Correct.
that first
It's not for
entrance.
the farther one by the houses.
That's right. Yep.
I worry about that. You're adding a third lane that you have to take that space from somewhere. It's going to have to take up on-street parking.
So that's something we could certainly, ask for more information on as far as, clarification on how that might work. I do worry that we're getting a little too far into the weeds where this is a rezone request and we're not looking at subdivision level improvements.
I know.
Well, then I have a question totally different. Can we move on from parking?
Yes.
Okay. Can you, so I can visualize the green space? How big is this green space? Is there enough space for a tricky bar for kids, a playground, or what?
Tom, can you speak to that?
I don't have that memorized. I know one of the sheets has a square footage. I can try to pull it up, but I don't remember off the top of my head. I apologize. Each of those, I'm trying to remember even the base footprint of, what's the footprint of each townhome unit? Because I could just give you that as a scale, just so you can visually see it.
Tom, do you
So
remember
what
which
did
sheet?
everybody say?
That sheet right there should have it if you zoom in on that table.
You're also 10 acres, and you could look at that.
think-
It's probably less than 10%.
Yeah, common area total is what you're looking for right
You
there.
think 10, really?
261 square feet.
18.5%.
Okay.
Now that likely includes,
That
the
does include-
outside.
so
area
you just
around the
want the
outside.
landscape.
I just want to know how much the green space is. We get burned sometimes on green space.
But that's including all the peripheral too.
I think
So
That's-
that
I'm
I
just
think that includes anything
about
that's
them-
hatched green.
Not
Right.
about all of the other stuff. the middle green space right there that, and I appreciate that you've added to it. I mean, I appreciate that you have
Yeah, I
done
do
a
too.
whole lot of work on this. But
And-
I'm still concerned about the green space, and I'm still concerned about the single family housing. I think, in my opinion, maybe there's not enough. I'll just say it right out like that.
Yeah, so here's my opinion on the transition. So there's supposed to be an east side transition. It uses the word sensitive, which is relatively subjective. I think that technically it's meeting the intent by having that single row of homes there. As I put myself and try and imagine being in one of those houses, they're now facing a wall of garages. And so for those single family homes there, that doesn't feel like a sensitive transition. I at the very least would like to see fronts facing fronts, and maybe add a second row of houses so that the back is facing the garages instead. And you guys probably think we're putting you through the ringer because we're being very, very thorough here. And I hope you guys understand too that this is the first time we've done this, and we want to make sure we set a good precedence here. And we appreciate how much you guys have been working with us. So, but that's where when I look at that sensitive transition, that's what comes to mind is in particular that wall of garages doesn't feel sensitive to me.
And I like the way Porter stated that because I feel the exact same way.
So your idea is to have 2 rows of houses and have them face each other, kind of like a neighborhood. Is that what you're
Yeah, so
thinking?
Yes.
that's one way to do it.
Yes.
And maybe in the ideal case, in the simplest case is flip the townhomes around so you're looking at the front door
Instead of
a
garage.
garage wall, right? There's those
But-
very nice architecture, like they're very nice looking townhomes. And
Yes.
so I would rather see that on the other side at a minimum. But having the more houses there feels like the more full sensitive transition.
I agree because actually it is right now it's zoned for single family housing, and I think that's a big deal. I think a little neighborhood for that, facing each other in their neighborhood, would be nicer. And all the other rest is great, but that's a concern that I have, and I don't know how to move that forward.
I think it's proposing a more sensitive transition, and we work with them to see what we can come up with.
Okay. That's a good way to say it. Any other comments between the other two?
You check my notes.
No, I just had the additional cottage homes and parking. And you know, one thing I thought about, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
one thing I thought about is because the Cove and the medical building were approved, whatever happened there to mess up the parking, that problem shouldn't fall on this. This not really, it has nothing to do with, you know what I'm saying, this piece of land. And I feel sometimes that we're pushing a problem that existed from something else onto another piece of land. Anyway, if that makes any sense.
On the parking, I feel like they've made a great attempt to address the parking numbers. I think
Right.
that southwest corner is the concern, especially those live work units. And I think we've talked some ideas that could work that. I think 1 in 3 not using the garage is a generous number, and they've got large garages too. So I think they put really good faith effort out to address that part. And the on-street, unless the city wants to say and enforce no on-street parking, there's not much we can do about that, but we can't take credit for it anyway.
Right. So I think that's our concern. The southwest parking, the single-family homes. We would like to see a more sensitive transition. Is that how you said it, Porter?
That's the
That
word
makes
the code
sense to me.
uses.
Pardon me?
That's the word the code uses, is sensitive.
All right. Yes, it is. And I still don't really get the green space dimensions, but it looks like you're working on that. Those are my 3 concerns.
Okay. Some things so not a public hearing tonight, but we did get a lot of public input. And I read through all of those, and there were four things that I noticed created tensions that are hard to reconcile. And so I want to address those. So one is that there's the city goals of addressing the general plan with the density downtown. There's also the pressure from the state, of course, whether that's heavy-handed or not, it's the reality we live in, to provide that moderate income housing. And then there's that the city's stated goal to provide the transition. And so that's a tension, right? Is how do we provide the density, but how do we also provide the transition? We've talked about that tonight. There's also, that small town feel that we want to talk about. This is related to that, and providing housing for our children. That's come up in both of these rezone applications, and that's not an easy one to reconcile either, right? Because we'd love to see the small town, the small single family homes. Maybe they could be more affordable, but we also have a need. We have a lot of children in this valley, and so there's a tension there. And then the other one that came up from the letters was the usable open space and the stormwater retention. I think we've got more space in this proposal. Understanding the slope helps a lot. My kids play in retention, areas when most of the time they're usable. But having that slope definitely makes it feel more like a park than a retention.
Yeah, unfortunately, it won't be quite steep enough for like sledding and stuff like some of the retention ponds.
They'll try anyway.
That's right.
If they get a running start, they can.
Yeah, and then the last one I saw in those letters was the owner occupancy, right? If we're trying to build this with the future generations in mind, and we want homeowners and our future children to be able to buy into something of property, and have that equity over time, we've got to have that enforcement infrastructure in place, and that is admittedly a place that's unproven still, and we've got work to do there. But it sounds like all the mechanisms are in place to be able to go and try this out. And it's not an easy question to answer. But I see a lot of collaboration here. I hear a lot of concerns, and there are a lot to look through here. So I just wanted to address those.
So I just have a clarifying question on that sensitive transition that you were talking about. Does the city feel like an option, because I don't mean to speak for the developer, but I think another row of single family may break the project as far as numbers go. They're kind of on the ragged edge for making this pencil with the owner occupancy and different things. But I'm wondering, is another option, instead of another row of single family, doing front loaded townhomes, so that there's, and what I mean by front loaded, these are rear loaded, meaning you've got the garage door and then the man doors in the back. It's more of a front loaded facade, something that's a little more sensitive. You mentioned the wall of garages that the houses are
Is the
looking at.
garage still on that side?
You would still have unless you remove the garage, you'd have to, yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of I'm trying to think of a good example, but you'd have a garage door and then you'd have an entry to the right, just
like a house.
just like a house. Yeah, exactly.
Because the houses are going to have
The
that.
apartments are going to be.
That's true. I suppose it's something we could look at. I think it moves in that direction of sensitive transition. I think that facade in particular is the concern there. And the other thing is like the green space in a house. You have a garage, but you also have a yard, right, and some landscaping. And so I don't want to just look at. I don't want to. I don't feel like it's a sensitive transition if it's just a wall of building. So and to address the whether that kills the project or not, like. We want to see this go through, and at the same time, we're setting a precedence, and we've got to get this one right. And so, I think we can work together to find something.
I think we need to do that, because as it is right now, I have those concerns also, and we don't want to say, but I think we need to be more sensitive, because this is the beginning of what we're trying to do. Teresa?
Well, I was just going to say, we spent a lot of time coming up with this general plan and city center and all this, and this project comes really close to what we want, like what we expected, what we wanted, and and as far as the levels, I mean, 3 stories means more square footage, and I think of my kids when they were, with their young families and stuff. I don't think they care. I mean, they would just like more square footage, so I don't worry about that. But, we do have some concerns, but I really appreciate that how you've worked with us And this is pretty close to what we all talked about happening. So.
I'm thinking of some neighborhoods around when it comes to single family housing. And I think it would be nice. I hate to say this, but Porter's neighborhood is there, which is a good example of how a little neighborhood of single family housing should look. And I think it's something to think about. Sensitive transition and still try and make it work. So I'm not ready to send on a positive recommendation. I don't know what the rest of you feel like.
We shared our concerns, and I think we could see if the developer's interested in addressing a little bit more some of our concerns.
How do we do that?
Well, so in this type of a situation, a developer, because this is a legislative point of consideration, the developer can say, I would like a recommendation from the Planning Commission. And that recommendation can be negative. It can be positive with certain stipulations to say it can be positive, but only if A, B, C, and D have been satisfied. Or you can say, you know, we're open to tabling if the developer's willing to go back and retool a few things and then come back and try to get a more unanimous positive recommendation or a recommendation with fewer conditions, because a lot of those concerns have been worked through. There is time sensitivity with any project, and developer is they are very sensitive to time. And I will say this developer has worked for a very good amount of time on this proposal, more so than I think most are willing to hang on the line. And I'm not saying that we're trying to help a developer out. I'm saying there's the realities of how these things go. So I think it's up to the developer to decide if they want to take another revision back to the Planning Commission or if they would like to request a formal recommendation. We do need to protect the developer's due process rights, and at some point, we do need to, move along with whatever that decision may be, positive, negative, positive with conditions, whatever it may be. So I think that we do need to perhaps have the developer let us know where they're at based on the feedback that they've received so far. And then I think that could be a little bit more dialogue, and then a motion could be any one of the above, whatever you guys feel comfortable with.
Well, we also need to remember that our recommendation goes to the city council, but they're going to do what they choose to do, because they've not always accepted our recommendations too either. So,
and I understand what Scott's. Yeah, you can sit down. Sorry. I hate to send on a positive recommendation because we're working on this idea. I hate to send on a negative recommendation, but I think at this point I'd have to, if we need a positive or a negative, I'd have to vote for that because of these. We hope we have a nice transition. We hope we take care of the parking down there, and that's what we say if we send on a positive.
Those are the stipulations that Scott's talking about.
Yeah, but we don't know. We want to know what the developer can do about single family housing, and we don't want to say you need to add 25 more single family houses. No, we don't want to say that.
But also we could send on a recommendation with what we think should be maybe changed, and the city council will decide if they want to. They will decide if they want to accept the project without our recommendations or if they want to require. The city council is the one that has.
That's right. But we do the work for them. We do the work for them.
So I'm trying to weigh this and look at bounce this against the criteria that we have in the code. And the three things that we talked about today were parking, the open space, and the sensitive transition. And as it is today, the parking is technically compliant. I think there's some logistics that can be worked out. The open space, whether it's usable or not, it's there, and our code allows taking credit for both storm retention and open space. And I think it's a lot better than it was before. For me, the linchpin that it comes down to is that sensitive transition. And I think, let me say this and see what you guys think, but I think I would be okay forwarding a positive recommendation with the condition that they address the sensitive transition and let city council decide if that was a sensitive transition. I think I'm okay with that today. If we're not all in agreement, it's tabling it, working with the developer, and doing this one more time.
What do you think, Blake?
I'd like to know what the developer thinks.
Oh, I think we know what the developer
Sorry. You want to take another swag at it?
You know, I agree with you, Porter. I think it's been very intentional trying to make you guys happy. I hope you guys know that.
And the work shows.
And we know that.
This
and
has
we
been
appreciate
exhausting
that.
for you guys. I know you guys have put so much work into this, and you guys are very much appreciated. I'm from North Logan. I know a lot of you guys. We look back in the crowd. I know a lot of you guys here. So, this is very intentional to the project, and we know we're setting a precedence here. So we want to do a good job, and we hope we are. And that's why I say you really feel tired as you're presenting this because of all the work that goes into this. Credit to Tom, credit to Scott and you guys here, that we really want to set a precedence here as well with you guys as we do this. So I think the parking, like you guys mentioned, we can accommodate that somehow as we go through. We don't want to get too much in the weeds. We think we can make you guys happy with as we go along and we do this. Transitioning, with the LiveWorks, I think that is definitely doable as well. I don't have any issues with that. I mean, we can accommodate that as well. Now, the sensitive transition, it's like building a house for my wife and providing a closet. She'll fill it up with stuff regardless, no matter how big it is. I don't want that to happen, I guess, as we start accommodating more and more here. There is a breaking point. I hope you guys know that. And it's not about cramming as many units as we want in here. It's trying to provide a successful project, accommodating the deed restriction that we want to be, going forward. We want to set a precedence with, these projects that we're presenting here. So that being said, I think all in all, we want this to be a successful project. And if we can achieve that, I feel comfortable moving forward with a positive recommendation. I think it's going to make it so we, in communication with you guys and as well as the city council, obviously, and with Scott, and we keep moving forward. I feel positive about that, that we can accomplish that with the work that we've already put into this project. Like you guys said, I think we're close. I think there's just a few tweaks here and there that we need to accomplish with you guys. So that being said, I think I still feel confident, but knowing that it has been a lot of work for both parties, obviously. So,
Yeah, and we appreciate the work you've put in. Thank you. Thank you. Scott, logistical question. If we do forward the positive recommendation with the condition on the sensitivity, how do we make sure that all the work we're putting in translate over to city council and that gets followed through?
That's my next question.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Part of the communication to the city council will be all of the staff reporting, all of the public comments that have been collected to date, the meeting minutes from both meetings to convey the dialogue and the points of consideration. The planning commission, as part of their motion, you'd want to put quite a bit of information into what your recommendation is conditioned on and what that condition looks like in an ideal world. So instead of just saying we want to see a more sensitive transition, what does that look like for the commission so the city council has a better understanding of, well, what does the recommendation entail? What would have been a sensitive transition in the eyes of the planning commission? What is the parking that we're looking to satisfy for the LiveWork units or otherwise? I think that's probably the best way to go about doing it, is to be very intentional in your motion. And then we'll make sure we put quite a bit of that information into the meeting minutes, obviously, so that the city council, when they receive this agenda item, they'll have all the documentation that's been compiled to date, the meeting minutes from both of these meetings, plus your detailed motion. So I believe that's the best way forward.
Okay. I'm good with that.
So the way we word that condition, we want to provide a more sensitive transition, such as more single-family homes front-facing each other, or front-facing townhomes towards the single-family homes as well. What about front-load units with, instead of 2 row homes, you have 4 that have more landscaping in between?
Are these 3-story?
You mean,
Greens 3?
again, on the east right there, by
Yeah.
where are you talking about, Porter?
On the east, that row there, just those 2 buildings break them into 4 and have some landscaping in between. Does that feel like a sensitive transition? If they're also front loading and the architecture doesn't feel like a flat wall on the other side.
Maybe we need to add all those three.
So you
That's
say
what I'm
rather
wondering.
than adding more single-family homes, it's just reducing the townhouses directly across the street, who's
It's-
reducing the number.
Yeah,
directly across the street.
maybe you take out 1 or 2 in order to get the space, and those 2 row buildings become 4 so that you have landscaping in between them.
Well, or
I'm
4
saying 4
townhouses.
total buildings. I don't know how many units they end up being. What do you have? 7 in each. So make each 6 and do 4 3-unit is an example. And then you have the landscaping in between. 4 buildings, not 4 units. Yeah. So it's minimal reduction, but my question is, does that feel like a sensitive transition?
Because it's just going to have more open space than the other area.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I think we can, if we're going to send a positive recommendation on, I think we need to list all these
All 3 of
three
them. Yeah, I agree.
ideas.
Okay.
All right.
I think because that's our big thing. I think you're going to take care of the southwest live space parking idea, right? Because that was our other concern.
That feels like a logistical thing to me. I mean, maybe you add more parking stalls. I don't want this to be death by 1,000 cuts, but take out those 2 units on the bottom, just like they did on the 2 sections to the east, and add parking there. That could serve those. Now you're crossing a parking lot, but that's one way to do it. Although if you move the live work units to the middle, maybe you don't need to do that, right? I think the concern is, do we have the parking close enough in proximity to the
For
live
the-
work units
Because
that
you want them to
For
be
the
successful.
customers to
Right.
You
park.
want them to be
Yeah.
successful.
Yeah.
It's not for who's living there, it's for the customers that come.
Yeah.
So I think I see 2 conditions. One is making sure that the parking is in proximity to the live work units, and then it's the sensitive transition. Is that our 2 conditions?
I think so.
Okay.
And on the sensitive transition, we need to say
Those 3
these
examples.
examples.
Okay.
Remind me what the 3 are again?
There's another row of single family homes, so that there's
they're
single
facing
family
each
homes
other.
facing each other.
So just a
Like a
whole nother
neighbor.
row.
Right. And then there's front facing townhomes towards the fronts of the
Instead
single
of
family homes.
backs.
And then there's breaking those 2 buildings into 4 with landscape
more
transitions in
adding
between,
more
and making them front loading with appealing architecture on the outside.
How do you feel about it's like single story, 2-story,
2
3-story?
2-story could be fine. That feels more sensitive to me. That's another definition we could put in there.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that kind of sensitive transition in the past, right? Where it's like, instead of going single to 3, you go single to 3.
And to just a really quick point of interjection here, with the form-based code, all row buildings are required to be a 3-story row building.
That's right.
Yep. Just FYI.
Okay, I think we're to a point where we can send on a positive recommendation with these conditions, the parking for the live work units on the southwest, whatever they want to do there. Not for the residents that live there, but for the customers that
Yes.
come. And a sensitive transition with these 3 ideas. Another row of homes facing each other. Reduce the unit size with a front-facing garage and front door. Is that what we're saying?
And reducing the number and adding more
green space. Okay, is that what we're
And then the third one is just having front facing.
front-facing
Townhomes.
Townhomes to the
Yep.
cottage house.
Okay.
Okay.
Shall I make a pass on a motion?
Sure.
Okay. I move that we make a positive recommendation to City Council regarding the proposed zoning map amendment and master development plan located on the northeast corner of 2200 North and 400 East, known as Ashbourne, subject to the facts, findings, and conditions of the staff report, with the addition of the conditions that we look at the parking proximity to the live work units, suggesting moving those live work units to accommodate that, as well as improving the sensitive transition from the eastmost row of townhomes to the single family homes in one of 3 ways. a second row of single-family homes, forward-facing townhomes, or breaking up the 2 rows into 4 buildings with front load and improved architectural elevation on that side.
Okay,
I'll
does that
second-
include
I'll second
everything?
Jeez.
You said, okay, Porter made the positive recommendation with all of those stipulations, and Teresa seconded. Is that good enough? All in favor?
Aye.
Any against?
Yeah, I'll vote no.
Okay. 3 yeas, 1 nay. Okay. Good. Okay, thank you. We appreciate your talking with us, being here. We appreciate everyone being here. We know this is a fun way to spend Thursday night, you know. Okay, let's move on to item number 5, Attitude Business Park subdivision. Scott, tell us about this one.
Yeah, real quick. This subdivision is a commercial subdivision that is proposed for some property that is on 2500 North on the west side of Main Street. I'm gonna pop in here. This project has been patiently waiting as we've gone through the code updates to 2500 North and now the zoning updates that are proposed. Let me go into, so here's the general plan. The subject property shown there on the far west side of the city. There is some, can we ask that the public who is still chatting about this last item take your conversations out to the hallway, please? Okay. So you'll see in the future land use map of the general plan, there is a convergence of 2 future land use districts on this subject property. The frontage is along 2500 North in the 2500 North Corridor Gateway, and then the rear minority of the property is in the manufacturing commercial future land use district. So there's two desired outcomes with the future land use on this property in particular. Let me hop over to the preliminary plat to show you the proposed configuration here. Okay, so what's proposed of this property is to split it up into 4 equally sized building lots, 2 of which would front 2500 North, with a private access lane providing additional access to 2 more lots towards the rear. Those 2 lots towards the rear would continue to be accessed by 2400 North. But 2400 North is proposed to be vacated as a public right-of-way. It's an old public right-of-way that the city inherited from Logan City.
We can't hear, so you can talk, but go out in the hall, okay?
And so when this area was annexed into North Logan, that 2400 North corridor was inherited by the city essentially. That 2400 North corridor doesn't connect into the rest of the city's roadway infrastructure and isn't anticipated to make any future connections. It's not a master plan roadway. And so the proposal seeks to vacate that portion of 2400 North, but maintain just a private access easement towards the rear of those properties. So equally, subdivided amongst the properties there. The zoning, as you'll probably be aware, will be applied to the property about not quite midway through the rear lots. So the 2500 North Gateway zoning will be on the front 330 feet, essentially. Okay. We've been working with the developer on what may occupy these building lots in the future, and they're aware of the zoning changes that are being proposed for the property and those conditions. But for now, what we're looking at is just splitting it up into 4 building lots on this corridor. There's no additional public right-of-way that is anticipated. 2500 North is a UDOT corridor, and there's not any widening anticipated on that corridor or frontage improvements that are necessary. So all of the internal improvements will be private, including their utilities. They'll pull those utility stubs off of adjacent public infrastructure, but it will be private infrastructure internal to the block. But that's the proposal in a nutshell. Do you guys have any questions about this preliminary plat?
Anybody?
I don't have
questions?
One quick clarification. This is because it's a commercial subdivision, the planning commission will be making a recommendation to city council, just as a reminder. We do have our applicant here. If we have any questions for him, Jeff Jackson in the audience.
Waiting so patiently.
Any questions for him?
I think it's pretty.
I think it's
just
pretty.
I don't know.
Are you just bored, Jeff? You need something to do?
I don't think we have any questions, Scott. So I think we are ready to make a recommendation.
Yeah, I'd make a motion that we approve it as is and send it on to the city council without stip.
Okay, it's been made a motion and
The
seconded
motion should be to forward a positive recommendation.
Yeah.
for the positive okay. Blake has made the motion to send on a positive recommendation for this proposed 4-lot commercial subdivision. Porter seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Scott, staff business.
Just one quick reminder, APA conference, fall APA conference, September 9th and 10th down in Layton. If you'd like to go, let me know. We can get you registered. But that's the only business I have for you.
Okay. And our next meeting, maybe the 20th, but September 3rd for sure.
Yeah, more than likely the 20th will be canceled. I don't have anything that is immediately pending. We'll let you know if that changes. But I anticipate, yeah, September 3rd will be our next regular meeting.
Okay.
On the 20th, so.
Okay. Good. Good, not that you're gone. Good that we can just do this. All right. We can move on to our work session, or we can ask for leniency and do it another time.
Yeah, it's up to you guys. I know we're getting a little bit along in the tooth. These two items that are on the work session, they are important, and there is a reason why we are putting them on the agenda to ensure that we have initiated a formal process for these topics of consideration. I think acknowledging them and that they are on the agenda, we are working on them, is sufficient for now, and we can come back when we have more time to discuss them in work session.
Okay.
Oh, that would be great.
That's good. Thank you. I've read through them and they are really important to talk about. So, okay, with that said, I think we can adjourn.
So moved.
So
Second.
moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thanks, Scott. Thank